So, hello and welcome to Surrender, the first discussion of Peasants, the Conquest video talk show. My name is Rob of Table Troop, and joining me for the first time is Mr. Josh Hatch. Excuse me.
Howdy. Right? My second or third time on the webs as far as these video things go, but nothing famous. We had planned on launching what we were going to call it the Easily Distracted Owls podcast, and then that never went anywhere. So
Are owls easily distracted?
I mean, ours were going to be. We just figured like that 360 line of sight, like you'd just be picking up all the shiny objects. It's more of a crow thing, but we liked the owl imagery better.
That's awesome, actually. So this is going to be kind of a revamp of a Conquest show. I was started, sometime during COVID, except it was a completely different cast. Those folks are still going to be involved, but for right now, it's going to be Josh and I. So really, what this show is going to be is it's going to be more of a focus on community, as a whole. Getting people involved, but also like specifically focusing, I think, on our local, I guess, narrative meta story, whatever you want to call it. So, I'm kind of the person that has the drive to want to talk about this game, right? But Josh is the person that actually knows what the heck he's talking about. So, and yes, we're gonna have a couple drinks while we talk about this.
Fake it till you make it.
So, Josh, do you want to talk about you in Conquest?
Ooh, me and Conquest. All right, so I've known of Conquest since right around their first couple shows. I want to say, I apologize if this is wrong, but it was the Nord Queen on YouTube who did a demo at, it might have been a Gen Con, I don't even know, in like 2018, and showed off sort of the demo game. And I was like, ooh, this looks cool. As we'll talk about at some point, I have issues focusing on games for more than a short period of time and want to collect them all. And then I made the strong decision at that point that I could not get into another rank and file, large scale mass battle game, and Conquest was like 38 millimeter scale, and it didn't really match. And I sort of said, no, I'm going to hold off. And we have a friend who also has gaming ADHD who said, you know what, I'm gonna stick with you. I'm not gonna go into Conquest. And then a year later, we are playing Conquest and hunting around New England for every starter box that we could find that had the holiday bundles that were basically starter boxes plus some dice and some paints and some paintbrushes to start building up our forces. And from there, so that was right about the same time that Conquest, at least in our little local area, seemed to take off. So I don't know how many followers of the troop you have, but it seems like our little local meta here is in New England. So we were lucky enough to get a store, the Armory War Games and Hobby in Fairhaven, Mass, that kind of picked it up and acted as our little bit of our home base. We had a great launch, and then COVID hit. And everyone kind of, was forced into their cave for a year. And I had a grand plan of throwing together and painting all of my Nords as well as my starter sets. And so when COVID ended, I would come out with everything ready to go. And instead, I just kept building and adding to the collection instead of actually finishing the collection. And then one of the same guy who's got the ADHD ended up sort of getting into their Vanguard program, which is the Conquest's demo guys and girls and people on their forums and discords that are sort of driving the game. And I tagged along for the longest time, and finally in September, I said, you know what, I've got all the stuff. I love the game. I've played as much as I can online on TTS. When stores started to open up, I was playing as much as I could when people were willing to meet me and get a demo. So I signed up to be a Vanguard. I keep wanting to call them conquistadors, but I think they missed a step there by not being conquistadors, but they're Vanguards. Mm-hmm. And this was right about the same time that we were planning, or that the same store was planning their convention called Armourcon, which was in Massachusetts in Marlborough. Just last weekend, October 14th, 15th, 16th. I think. And we were going to really headline the game there. Parabellum, the company that makes Conquest, stepped up and offered a ton of prize support and sponsored a good chunk of the convention. And so I basically was involved as sort of the lead, one of the lead demo guys and lead organizers of just getting the tournaments off the ground at Armourcon. So I basically went from watching from afar and playing with friends throughout COVID and playing on TTS when people would organize games to jumping in headfirst to heading up more or less a local tournament at convention that went for 3 days. So that's kind of how I got my foot in the door and then stuck my whole head in without looking.
Yep, that sounds about right. You know, as someone who has terrible gaming ADHD, I've also heard the term you're a gaming agnostic, or
Yeah.
a gaming pagan. I actually
Yeah.
almost kind of like that a bit better. Um,
My
but
problem is
yeah,
my problem is the shiny syndrome. It's like while you're playing one game, you're looking over at another game,
mhm.
and conventions are amazing for that because generally speaking, there's games you haven't seen or armies you are not familiar with all around you the whole weekend.
Right, exactly. So I guess my brief history with Conquest is I definitely saw the models. I think I fell in love with it. I mean, as you know, I'm pretty loyal to my 100 Kingdoms. I don't think anyone has a loyalty quite to their army like I do. As right now, I'm repping my 100 Kingdoms T-shirt. I probably have at this point about 3,000 points of 100 Kingdoms, and I still don't even have all the units. I've just like hoarded and amassed stuff just through like free things and just deals and all that.
Well, then the deals that I mean that was I think one of that was probably what broke the floodgates was just the amazing deals, the starter set, the holiday bundles. They still give away product, basically with any purchase at this point. If you go through your store or go through their website at para-bellum.com, and it was too good to pass up. And then as soon as you get the models, you're like, all right, this is cool. All right, now I need more of these. Then
Yep.
you play the game, and you're like, all right, now I definitely need more of these.
Exactly. So I'm trying to remember the bundle I got because I don't offer it anymore. It was, I think, a starter set. I got an extra men-at-arms, mercenary crossbowman. I got an officer and a mage.
That's
And
pretty good. That's a pretty good bundle.
and I think I got a T-shirt. I got this T-shirt with it. And I honestly, that was like low key the tipping point. I was like, these shirts are so stylish. I love the style of the artwork, which I'm a very aesthetic person. I'm not a big tournament super grindy person, so I need proper aesthetic for the game, and that's where I think I really why this game sticks for me is I love the setting, I love the design, I love the unique take on certain tropes, but a good spin on it kind of thing. Like the spires are a pretty unique thing. A lot of people compare the dark elves, and I think that's completely unfair to the spires. But yeah, I don't know. It's just things kind of snowballed. I started talking to other players. I think I met you, and that's kind of what got me, because you actually gave me, I think, my first proper game. I was teaching, I think, Brett and Johnny up to that point, but you were like the first person to give me like a real proper game in your garage, because we were
Yes.
super close at the time.
Yes. The COVID garage safe door open with the fan blowing.
Yes.
Whether it's 12 degrees out or 98 degrees out, that garage saw some gameplay during the pandemic for sure.
Yeah, so and then I kind of fell off the wagon a bit, just between more COVID, personal stuff going on. But now that things are kind of mostly normal, mostly air quotes, I'm definitely ready to start gaming again. And I got in a game with you for 1.5 a couple weeks ago. You smoked me, but I had such a good time, and I have to avenge my honor.
I did not realize you hadn't played in a year, so that was not the ideal demo game. I sort of forgot that because you've been talking about it, and I knew you had a lot of 100 Kingdoms, so I sort of assumed I was not necessary to hold back, and perhaps that was the wrong move.
Oh,
But you were incredibly gracious and re-racked, brought in a second force, and the exact same thing happened. At which point, I think it's just your dice.
Maybe. So. I actually bought new dice at Armourcon, and actually that's going to be mostly the conversation of this episode, is just talking about the local con, Armourcon, and what else we got going on. So yeah, but that's pretty much it. I love my 100 Kingdoms. At some point in time, I'm going to dip my toe into Nords, supposedly. But who knows?
Right. That's the right choice right there.
But who knows when City States comes out?
Oh yeah, the upcoming Old Dominion Undead, some of the artwork in the new campaign book is just crazy good. The City States have a huge following already for a army that only has 3 pieces of artwork and 1 model. Mm-hmm. And then I'm a Weaver Courts guy. I appreciate the weirdness of the Spire, or they're Spire. I don't know if they're going to end up with a subtitle, because Weaver Courts are also technically Spire. But the traditional Spire, I appreciate the weirdness. Some of their models are amazing. But I was all Weaver Courts. The idea of plant and animal and leaf and moss based pseudo immortal elves twisting their magic around the seasons is just too cool. And of course they came in 3rd, so I've got a long ways to go before I can get my hands on any Weaver Courts.
Right. Okay. Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun to talk about, and I could just talk about this game quite a bit because I'm quite passionate for it, but I think we should diverge right into Armourcon. So
certainly.
Do you want to give a rundown on what Armourcon is exactly?
Sure. So again, there's this game store, the Armory War Games and Hobbies, run by Danny and his wife Amy.
Shout out to Danny and Amy.
Yep.
Who I was actually talking to Amy right before the show. Apparently, we're going to do a viewing party of The Last Unicorn.
Why not? That seems fine, right?
So really cool people, though, is what I'm saying.
Yep. So they had put together a local convention. They're out in Fairhaven, so kind of way out, southeastern Massachusetts, and they threw a convention in 2019 in Framingham, and it was good. It was successful, and they were really looking forward to doing it again in 2020, and then COVID happened, so they ended up holding everything off. The convention is based around tabletop gaming, but role-playing games, card games. They raise a ton of money for Handsome Dan's Animal Rescue and Foundation, which is really where the convention is sort of based around. Is fundraising. All of the prize and support and raffle prizes money goes to that foundation, and so they wanted to do a 2021 event. They really didn't know, how big it was going to be. They didn't get permission to actually have the event till real late because of COVID. Massachusetts had to say, yep, go ahead. We think you'll be okay in a few months. And so they had it at the Best Western in Marlborough, Mass. And Parabellum, because Conquest, one of the fewer stores in Massachusetts that was really stocking Conquest that time was the Armory. Alpha Omega in Quincy, Mass. Were the 2 that I know of that were stocking Conquest and had good relationship with Parabellum, and they came out and they said, we'll sponsor a good chunk of your convention if you're interested. Door prizes. First 100 registrants get a free unit box, which is a $39 value. We're going to sponsor demo tables. Anyone who gets a demo throughout the convention, supplies lasting, would get a demo box, so potentially 2 free boxes, just for showing up to the convention. And then I was approached to sort of put together the tournaments. So I decided on a pretty easy 1,000-point starter level tournament on Friday to get things rocking, a 1,500-point tournament on Saturday. The official tournament packs are based around 2,000 points, but so many people coming out of COVID were really, really sort of rediscovering the game or hadn't actually played in a year that I figured we would keep it simple. And then the demo game, or not demo game, the skirmish version of Conquest is First Blood. So I wanted to wrap things up on Sunday with a little bit of a First Blood game. And if anybody that sort of bought into the game over the weekend wanted to play, we would be able to accommodate them no problem. And obviously the convention had other games going on. There was a big there were GTs for Age of Sigmar, there were GTs for 40K, there were role-playing games, there was Board Game Cafe, Marvel Crisis Protocol, Flames of War. There were vendors selling their smaller games like Trilitarium, which is a 15 mil sci-fi game, and the Devil in the Woods, which is sort of like a Puritans versus undead and spirits from the other worlds that are around, the Boston and was it Church and Cotton Mather are like the main antagonists and protagonists in that little demo game, that little skirmish game.
Yeah, actually, I want to give a shout out to my favorite game, which I played there. It was called, I think it's called SRG Super Show.
Oh yeah, I never even made it to their booth.
Literally, as soon as I knew what this game was, I literally put money on the counter and I said, "How much will this get me?" So shout out to, I think it's Steve Resk. He's actually the creator of the game, and he's the person that gave me the demo game, and I have a bunch of the cards. I got at least like 2 decks, plus I could probably make another 2 others. So shout out to that. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to point that out because that's a huge shout out to a local game designer.
And I was so busy with the Conquest stuff. I honestly never, I was sprinting around on Sunday afternoon trying to hit up all the booths that I had walked through and not had a chance to really look at. I know Webway Games in Marlborough, Mass. is launching just this week, and they were super interested in Conquest, as well as just launching their own game store. Hobby Haven in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, also was there. They were selling GW and a lot of Gundam, and they were interested in Conquest. So just within that little convention, we had multiple sort of, I'll call them indie producers of games, local designers, multiple store owners, all kind of coming together to make a really successful 3-day event. I think it was great because everybody clearly had pent up gaming rage that they needed to get out on the tables. Everybody wanted to play everything the whole weekend.
Oh yes, so. Even outside of the table, you weren't a part of any of the after party stuff, but oh my god.
No, the tournaments and the booth wore me out. So I kind of.
Yeah,
I was cleaning up while everyone else was enjoying the extracurricular activities.
Yeah, and you know what? If I can just take a moment just to say thank you to you, because you were really the heart and soul. Literally, none of this would have been possible without you, and things have ran, at least from what I saw, really, really smooth. It's just whenever I needed you, you were there. You were like, give me a hot second, I'll be there, kind of thing. And you were just all over the place. So, thank you so much for, literally, we wouldn't have been able to do all that, and we did what? How many demos do you think we did? At least 45, 40?
Yeah, we gave out 60 boxes, so we ran out of demo product. But there were people getting, coming back for demos. And that was, it was paced weirdly. We gave a lot on Friday, and then things slowed down on Saturday. But that was mostly because that's when most people had their events scheduled, and then picked back up on Sunday. I will say we should shout out and cheers to our other volunteers, because we did have a lot of help, and and Rob here was also amazing at running his demo tables. I didn't really give him a tutorial. I kind of said, all right, I'm gonna do this table here. You go and do that table next to me, and see what you can make of it. And 2 hours later, he's got his own system down. He's running. He's like I'm doing these guys. This is how I'm running this campaign, this scenario. He's like, we're doing a warlord kill. He's like, I don't want to bother with your objective kill. That's fine, but I'm doing my own scenario.
I was kind of doing it like the people who I think really wanted to learn the game, I pushed towards your way, but people who were maybe interested in dipping their toe and just wanting to push around some trays and seeing how, the card system and activation worked and all that, that was more my goal, because just at some points there was like 9 people like standing there waiting for a demo, and it's like, oh crap, like
Yep.
I need to get demos done in like a half an hour, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah. The other guy who went above and beyond, Yasser,
Oh
who
yeah.
I only recently
Yes,
met.
cheers to Yasser.
He reached out to me. I guess through Facebook. We coordinated a game a couple months ago. We've been gaming at a shop called Great Stories Games and Comics in Uxbridge, Mass. And met a great community of Conquest players there. And he was like, "I want to give demos." He's like, "This is where I see myself." He showed up on Friday and just set up a demo booth of his own and was running people through demos with his own models on a table unrelated to mine. So at one point we had 3 demo tables going.
And we were all busy at one point.
Oh yeah. They're nonstop for the entire Friday. And then the only reason we had to stop on Saturday was we needed those tables for the tournament.
Yep.
So that we would have been able to give out more demos if we hadn't had people signed up for the tournaments. We ended up running 2 successful 3-round, 8-person events. The 1,000-point event had 8 people. Although one army, we had 3 different generals sort of switch in and out to run one of the Spire forces, which was entertaining. And then on Saturday we had another 8-person event with a bunch of out-of-towners. We had guys from New Jersey. We had 4 guys come up from New Jersey and Ohio. We had 2 come down from New Hampshire, and we only had 2 locals. So Conquest, in Marlborough, Mass, sponsored by a shop kind of out in the southeast side of Mass, was reaching it all the way into Ohio and New Jersey and Manchester area, New Hampshire, to bring in players.
Mm-hmm. And I think that shows just kind of how interested people are in this game, right? You know what I mean? It's I don't know, there's just something about this game, and I'm not quite sure what it has over some other things. I think maybe it's kind of it hits that, maybe that Warhammer Fantasy. That's kind of been my quest in my tabletop gaming ever since Fantasy died. I'm always just trying to fill that hole left in my heart.
Did you play Empire or Bretonnians?
How'd you know?
Okay, I was just assuming.
I was an Empire player.
Okay.
Pretty much from beginning to end.
See, I dabbled in everything. I played High Elves and Skaven and Vampire Counts, and those were my main 3.
And coincidentally, you collect every army in Conquest, so...
Yeah, I couldn't do that in Warhammer Fantasy when it was around. That would have been a little bit much.
It would have been.
Conquest, starting with 4 armies and then slowly adding the 5th in the Wadroon, and then soon to add the Old Dominion and the city-states, is basically the worst possible situation for me, because it means I can collect each army as it comes out. Mm-hmm. But that's fine. I liked, it allows me to dabble in all the forces, and then I can answer people's questions when they have concerns about their army.
Because you are indeed Mr. Conquest.
In this area, I mean, and I will shout out the Discord for Conquest. The Parabellum Discord is super active, and that's literally where I get 95% of my questions answered. Like they're excellent at getting back to me, getting back to anyone who posts. And anytime I come with anytime one of the players comes up with a question that I have not seen before, if it's not something I know, and I hop on Discord, and within usually an hour, despite the fact that there's a massive time zone difference between us and Greece, somebody has usually pitched in the Americas or in Europe to at least throw in their 2 cents and let me know if this is a common question that's been answered, or if I've come up with a new conundrum that needs to be solved by the game designers. But the only reason I'm able to answer most of the questions people ask is because someone else has asked them before, and usually on Discord or Facebook.
Right.
I have not spent that much time studying the rulebook. I have too many models to assemble and paint to do that.
And definitely this is like one of those games too. Like, you can read the rulebook a million times, you can break down the units and all that, but I just feel like it doesn't quite matter until you start rolling some dice and really understanding.
And the game itself, I mean, there's not that many moving pieces when you break down the actual mechanics, which I think is one of the reasons the game is so easy to pick up. I think it's one of the reasons the demos go so well. It is weird for people to try to roll low, but like once they get over that little hurdle, there's not that. You know, you're shooting or you're fighting. You're giving yourself a buff before you do either of those if you can. The movement mechanics are actually very simple. The terrain mechanics are there to keep terrain from being an obstacle to the game and allow you to play your game. You can use the terrain strategically, or tactically, I guess. But it doesn't slow the game down at all. And that's something that I think tricks people up is like forests don't slow you down. You know, hills don't slow you down. You know, you go around buildings and obstructions and things like that, but people always want to move half speed, and I'm like, nope, you get your full move, and they're like, what? Like the game wants you to be getting into fights and maneuvering around the table.
Yeah, I compared a lot of it to D&D 5th edition. You get 2 actions.
Yep.
Which is also, you know, it's interesting. That in itself is actually quite an interesting mechanic.
Right.
Though it is funny, the one criticism I will give to Parabellum, they need to start making terrain. Like, they have all these garrison rules and spells that interact with garrison, yet there's no things, and not a lot of people make 38mm terrain that you can throw dudes in.
I mean, 3D printing is a thing, and terrain is the easiest thing to scale up in general. Micro Art Studios came out with a single building for Conquest in 2018, 2019 MDF kit. Really nice sort of medieval style building. Mm-hmm. They advertised it for Conquest. It's still available. You can buy it. The doors are appropriately sized, but on the box it literally says for 28 to 32 mil scale, but Conquest is 38, which is awkward. But then they also advertised the building is large enough to hide an abomination behind. Like that was their tagline. It was like, you can hide your abomination behind this building. And then they didn't come out with any other buildings. They have rock formations, I think, that are labeled for Conquest, but they haven't actually come out with another product. And Conquest themselves have said they are interested in a terrain line, but they just COVID.
They showed like a Dweg building at one point a while ago,
and I forgot about that. They did,
and they're still milking it. Like it's in the background in so many pictures, and we're just like, all right.
Yep.
Anyways,
that's a good point. I completely forgot about that. But yeah, they know we want terrain. They just haven't figured out how and who to get that off the ground. From what I can tell, I mean, I have a lot of terrain, so I'm not super worried about it. I would rather have more units.
Hang on one second. Sorry, no, that was Billy just pounding on my door. He was probably curious if I was hungry. But anyway, sorry, continue.
Are you hungry?
No, I'm actually fine. You know what I had for dinner?
I don't.
Peanut butter jelly sandwich.
Oh, what's that? I was gonna say leftovers from the convention center. Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. But anyway, sorry, you were saying.
Oh, I was just saying they know that we want terrain. The best stuff I've found, which is not officially licensed or anything, is the Monster Fight Club, because they supply a neoprene area terrain base for their woods, their rubble, and their woods and their rubble. And then they have a bunch of different styles of trees and ruins and rock formations, but then you can just move them out of the way when your units are moving over the neoprene, the flat mouse pad stuff. And that's what I tried to populate the tables with at the tournament as much as I could, because it's just so much easier. You don't have to get your miniatures your miniatures and their trays don't get stuck on anything, and it's always clear if you're in terrain, if you're out of terrain,
right.
And that was very, very convenient. for the tournament tables. The other thing that's nice about just Conquest in general, for me, some people don't love it, is they don't actually want you to use a ton of terrain. They basically say like 3 pieces per table, maybe 4. So it's not super dense. So gaming on a budget, getting enough terrain for an 8-person tournament or even a 16-person tournament is not that difficult, which is a real seller for stores and for tournament organizers, which I think is something that we don't always think about. I know the 40K and to a lesser extent, but even a little bit, the Age of Sigmar groups are always struggling to have good terrain that can accommodate their players.
It is funny being kind of a not so GW person anymore, looking into the window of Games Workshop, and someone's
GW.
like, and someone's like, man, I get shit off the table turn 2, and then like someone's like, well, have you considered buying more terrain? You're at least supposed to play with 900 pieces of terrain to make the game fair. But anyways, let's actually go into the tournament, because that's something I want to know. How did it go? What were some of the top armies? What was the mood? What was the vibe? Did you play? Although one thing I do want to
I don't know if I brought my lists.
And one thing I do want to give a shout out to at least 2 people, because there were 2 armies I remember that were gorgeous, and I think we have pictures of them. One was Rob Davies, Wardroon.
Yep.
Beautiful display board. The Raptors were colorful and vibrant, and I cannot remember the gentleman with the 100 Kingdoms army. That
is Owen.
Okay.
Owen was a local. He moved for work to Ohio a few years ago, and he actually has his own podcast with his friend Chris, who also played, called the Dead Wargame Society. So they have a podcast and a Discord that are hilarious, where they basically talk about and interview, when they can, designers and players of games that are no longer supported. If you love your old, generally skirmish games, but if you love your dead war games, Dark Age is their favorite, like above and away. Dark Age, by what was eventually Cool Mini or not, is sort of the one that launched that. But they talk about Eden, they talk about Mercs, they talk about now kind of Dust 1947, since that one just recently sort of bit the dust, pun intended. They talk about sort of old GW games that may or may not be dead, depending on what GW decides to do with them. And a bunch of other games. I think they have a whole episode on Chronopia, which I never played.
What's this called again? Because I'm actually interested.
Dead Wargame Society.
Wargame Society.
Or Dead War Gamers Society.
Dead War Gamers Society.
Yeah, and that's a great That's a great one to look at. But Owen does an amazing job. He paints so many models for so many, both living and dead games. He and Chris, who came up from Ohio and New Jersey, had each only played, I think Owen had only played a couple times, and I think Chris literally got his first full game at one of our demo tables that morning, but had a almost fully painted Dwayne Force. So they're very prolific painters who do an amazing job of getting their stuff knocked out before they even show up to the table.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and Owen's 100 Kingdom with this sort of autumn
it might have actually been the best looking army I've seen in person.
Yeah. And I
said it.
I didn't look through. I know the 40K and AOS groups had their own painting competitions. There was a painting competition for the whole convention, but it was single model. Mm-hmm. And I don't think Owen entered it.
No.
In hindsight, Rob's Raptor, one of Rob's Raptors came in second.
Oh, nice, yeah.
He came in second overall, and then it is one of those things where as this convention grows, I could totally see an army scale painting competition, or like at least submit photos of your armies at the convention and then have those judged online. But so anyways, not to go too long. So we had Friday night, 1,000 points. We didn't start till 6 p.m., so I gave people time to get to the convention, get out of work, get to the show. Um, we had 10 people registered, 8 show up, which was perfect for me because that's 3 rounds and a clear winner, which is always nice. Danny from the Armory showed up with his Nord faction. His wife Amy showed up with her Spires. John Taylor showed up with his Dwayne. We had Rob Davies show up with his amazing Wadroon, running a very, very aggressive Raptor list. We had Yasser, who was paused in his demo giving to run Spires as well, which is not his normal faction. He's been running 100 Kingdoms, but he wanted to run Spires at the event. I'm blank. I'm gonna have to think about who else was there. Guy named, he goes by Bear, but his first name is James. He also showed up with a 100 Kingdoms army, having never played the game. Got his first demo at 5 o'clock and was in the was in the tournament at 6 o'clock.
Yep.
And I know I'm leaving somebody else out because that's not 8 people, but it'll come to me. And then the guys from New Jersey. So Josh came up from New Jersey. He was also playing Spires, and Rich came up from New Jersey, and he was playing Nords with a very heavy Jotnar list. So he was basically
he was the guy with like 3 Jotnars, right?
Yeah. So I think in the 1,000-point game he had 2, and then in the 1,500-point game he brought 3. So that was our 8, and it was really, really smooth. Like, there were a lot of questions, but they were all very easy to answer, and everybody, was like, "Oh, I didn't realize I could do that," or, "Oh, I've been playing that wrong for the last, 6 months." Or I've never come into this situation before because this is literally the first time I've put models down on a tournament table, and I just want to clarify that this character does this or whatever. So we had 3 rounds. Amy kind of had to drop out to deal with, her take care of her kid, feed the child. That's important.
And join the dragon cult, but whatever.
And the what is it? The cult of Tiamat.
Yes.
So we actually had
cult of Tiamat.
Cult of Tiamat. So we actually had. Was her name Celeste? I want to say her name. Sorrel. Thank you. Sorrel took over Amy's army for round 2. And then Sorrel had to go for another tournament, and Nick, who I play with at Great Stories, normally runs Dwayne. We handed him a Spire list and said, "You're playing Spires this for now. Go play Spires." So he ran Spires in round 3, and we just ran scenarios out of the base book. I made a few tweaks just to make the point scoring a little bit more even keel, because some of the scenarios in the base book can be a little swingy at 1,000 points. And our top table after 3 rounds was a Nordoff. So Danny, who's
Nordoff, yes,
was running the tournament or running the event, the convention, was running his Nords into Rich's Jotnar list. So we had basically blooded versus blooded, trolls versus trolls, Ugers versus Uger, and the big difference was Danny took Bow Chosen, who are the elite archers that Parabellum put out that are now kind of discontinued because they're going to reprint them in plastic, and Rich took his Jotnars. And the Bow Chosen were able to whittle down enough of the Jotnars. And Rich's, I think Rich might have had a unit of Huskarls in there as well, and his Huskarls to be able to take the night. And so the guy running the event or tournament, sponsoring the entire thing, won first place at our tournament. And I swear there were no shenanigans. It was totally legit. He gave his prize support to the second place, who then gave his prize support to third place, who then gave his prize support to fourth place. So it was very on the up and up, I swear.
You know what? Good. But okay, so who got the prizes? Who was 4th? Because this is my first time hearing about this. Because I wanted to save this conversation for the show.
Now I have to remember who got 4th on that day. I want to say Rich dropped to 4th after losing in the last round, and then I think John Taylor ended up getting a trophy, and Bear coming out, who had never played the game before that day, ended up also getting a trophy.
That doesn't shock me at all, to be 100% honest.
If you're a gamer and you can pick up basic rules. He was playing 100 Kingdoms. He was playing most of what came in the starter box plus Steel Legion with an extra cavalry. And if he got his charge off with the Noble Lord Cav, with Wedge, with the Lorien
Lance.
Yeah, Lorien Lance and Speed of the Horse. Like, he was decimating entire units just with that one charge. So the only game he lost was the one where his cavalry got charged first. As far as I know, from what I could tell walking around on the tables, it was kind of all eggs in one basket for that scenario. Right. But it's a powerful unit, and it's a great addition to the game to make those household knights hit like trucks when they want to.
Oh yes, I'm aware. I'm aware. So what happened Saturday then? And I forget, was there anything Sunday?
So Saturday was 8 people again. We had 9 signed up. So we had a flex person ready to go if a 9th person showed up, but the 9th person never showed up, and I don't know if they just didn't come to the con or what happened. So we ended up with an 8-person tournament. Owen was running his 100 Kingdoms, amazingly painted ones. Chris was running his Dwayne Home. Very balanced list. He had a single Ra, a single Ardent Karawa, and a single Sorcerer with the Hold Ra as the Warlord. So very balanced group. Rich was running his as many giants as possible, including an Ice Jotnar and 2 Jotnars. His Josh, who came up with him, was running his Spires with more Avatara than he was able to field on Friday. Danny and Amy weren't able to make it. So Rich,
they were too busy cosplaying.
They were cosplaying and running their convention. Seems fine. And then Rich was there with his Nords. Josh was there with his Spires. Rob, who was there with all of his Woodrune again. So this time he got to field. I think he had, I want to say at least 11, if not 12 Raptors. Maybe it was 11. I think he had 2 units of 4 and a unit of 3 Raptors on the table. Pretty much turn 1 every game. Then our friend Nick was running his Dwagehome that are actually his and not a proxy army of Spires. And then we had 2 guys come down from New Hampshire. Isaac, who's on the Discord, very active there, and his friend Brannon. And Isaac is running Woodrune as well, but a much more balanced list. He had Warbred, he had Raptors, he had a little bit of everything, as well as a really cool conversion where he took the Predator, which is the ranged character, and mounted it on one of the Raptors. One of the magic items lets the Raptor basically run as a cavalry on a Super Raptor. So he had converted that up. And then Bran was running his also Spire. Okay. And then that event went really smoothly, just very few questions. Everybody was super cordial. Half of them had played the night before. The other half, even though Chris and Owen had very few games between them, they were super easy to play with. And we ended up with that running for basically the normal amount of time. I was allocating 90 minutes per round in the smaller games and 2 hours per round in the larger games, and almost everybody was finished before time up. I think we had 2 games the entire weekend that we had to say, okay, wrap it up in the next 5 minutes. Don't start a new round, and we'll go from there. I think there was only 1 game that was close to a tie, and then they realized that one guy couldn't score in the following round, and that he'd lose if there was an additional round. And the 1,500 point games, we had a different set of scenarios. We took them out of the tournament pack. I ran scenarios 2, 4, and 6, which were basically Maelstrom, which is the changing objective points in the middle. Grind them down, which kind of rewards you for sort of taking out things that are bigger than you, so heavier units. And then the last one was called From Zero to Hero, and it was kind of a combination of objective grabbing and unit killing. So it seemed like a good blend. And we ended up with top table there being Rich and his Jotnar list against Chris and his Dwagholm that he had all of 3 games with. And they ended up going to top table. And this time, the Jotnars just had the Dwagholm numbers. The Cleave 3 on the Ice Jotnar, the Cleave 2 on the regular Mountain Jotnars, the Cleave 2 on the Trolls just kind of took apart a lot of the Dwarven infantry before he could really do anything with them. So we ended up with a Nord winner Friday and a Nord winner on Saturday. 2 different Nords running comparable lists. With a little bit more Bochosen emphasis on Friday and a lot more Giants running the field on Saturday. Sunday, as far as other places, I want to say that I think Chris still came in second due to just his scoring, and ended up maintaining his place in second. And Rob with his Wadroon, I want to say, grabbed third, and then Owen won the painting contest.
Obviously,
on Saturday. Yeah, that was kind of, there. We had 3 fully painted armies. What
was the third?
Josh's Spire were fully painted.
I must have missed that.
Yeah, he won the painting competition on Friday with a really nice abomination. Mm-hmm. We did single models on Friday and sort of armies on Saturday. So I was hoping for 4 painted armies. We got 3. I'm not complaining.
Well, you know what? I plan to show up at this Captain Con people are talking about for 2 reasons.
Captain Con's a good shout out.
2 reasons.
February 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Yes. So in
Warwick,
Rhode Island, right?
Warwick, Rhode Island. Old roadie.
First reason, I gotta rep us. I gotta rep us. And then second, apparently there is a doppelganger. A lot of people approached me at con, and they were talking to me like they knew me, and I'm like, I've never met you in my life. And they're like, oh, you don't go to Captain Con? And I'm like, no, what's Captain Con?
That's funny.
And they're like, you literally look like a guy that runs D&D. So I need to find this person, and I don't know, I have to fight him.
I mean, that's fine. Seems
how does that work? Have you met a doppelganger before?
Did you hear about the Josh fight in?
Yes.
In
so this
Iowa or whatever.
I mean, it's not a Rob fight because I'm not fighting other Rob, because other Rob would just kill me. He would.
What if the doppelganger's name is Rob?
I don't know. I don't even want to think about it. It's really stressful to think about in this moment, to be 100% honest. So let's just change the subject. Sunday, did anything happen?
Sunday we had a First Blood tournament, 600 points. We had 4 registered and only 2 showed up. So it was basically a First Blood demo game between the Wadroon and Rob D's Wadroon and Bear's 100 Kingdoms. And let's just say the 100 Kingdoms didn't show up. I think his Men-at-Arms didn't show up until turn 3, and by that point there were a lot of Raptors in his deployment zone. So that was a very quick game of First Blood, and with no other opponents, we ended up giving out our first prize to Rob D and our second prize to Bear for their heroic efforts playing First Blood on Sunday. But it's interestingly enough, since that tournament, since that First Blood event, I've had multiple people reach out to me about getting First Blood demos.
I have to confess, I've never played a game of First Blood, so I probably should get in on that at some point in time.
It's not super. There's not that many differences. It does play faster. You do need fewer models, so it is a very good game for people who only want to play painted, or if you just don't like rank and flank, you just don't like the idea of the movement trays. First Blood is an excellent alternative. There are enough rules that make it different that it is its own game.
Okay. All right. So we're just about time. So is there any shout outs, any things you want to add?
I
Or
mean,
anything like that?
100%. Anyone who's interested in Conquest should reach out to the Conquest page, the Discord. There's a New England Conquest group on Facebook. Any of the local stores. At this point, we're getting Conquest into a good number of shops, all around Boston, down through certainly the Armory in Fairhaven and further west in Mass. I know there are shops in New Hampshire that are carrying it. I know the Battle Standard and the Portal in Connecticut carry it. I don't know about New York and points further west. I do want to shout out certainly Captain Con in February. That's going to be an amazing convention. It's always an amazing convention, and every year, there's always great people there and a lot of doppelgangers to meet.
And fight, maybe kill. I don't know.
Maybe I would don't say kill. That's not good. And then
I don't know how this works. Okay.
And then the other person who we didn't talk about yet because he was running the sales booth, but our friend Johnny was doing an amazing job. And then
shout out to Johnny.
Shout out to Johnny. And then also
Cult member
Jason T came all the way out from New York and was working his tail off on Saturday and Sunday. So he put in a ton of effort. Working our booth as well. So those two did an amazing job, just making sure people could get some product, and then you, Rob and Yasser and myself sort of manned the demo tables and the tournament tables. So it was a 5-man operation, and put on by the Armory and Armourcon and Parabellum. And all those people and people involved deserve some huge credit and a final cheers.
Yes, the final cheers. Unfortunately, I'm out of drink, but I will cheers.
That's why you bring 2.
Well, you talk so much, so I'm just... You can't see my camera, but you'll just be watching me. I'm just drinking as you're talking. So I want to give some shout-outs. Obviously, Amy and Danny at the Armory. Fantastic work, for such a great cause. I bought raffle tickets. I didn't win anything, but I'm helping puppies, so best thing ever.
I thought you won some stuff.
No, I stood next to...
Oh, okay, it didn't rub off on you.
I stood next to Sorrel, and she won, everything.
Oh,
okay. 5, 6, 7 things. So
you were a lucky charm.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure. Let's go with that. So yeah, I just if I could give a shout out to you again because you just put in so much work, and I just want to make sure that you are acknowledged and you're recognized for us being probably the most popular game there. To be 100%.
I mean, obviously, we're gonna say that no matter what.
No, objectively, we were the most popular game. Everyone, was talking about Conquest. Everyone's like, oh, gotta get in a demo. There were people coming in for seconds and thirds for demos.
Yes.
They were just we want to keep playing this game.
We lost our head count because we were like, wait, you've been here before.
Correct, yes. And there were people that I want a third demo, and I'm like, I think it was Sunday, and I'm like, bro, I can't. I can't. I'm deceased.
Stick a fork in me. I'm done.
Sure. So... I guess I will do the final information. So this show is planning to be bi-weekly. Again, we are planning to focus on community, and also our local community as well. So if you would like to be on the show, would love to have you on. Feel free to comment and message me. I'm Balrob on Discord. You can find me on Facebook or just message Table Troop at Roll for Attention at tabletroop.com. So there's all sorts of things. Table Troop is currently going through a rebranding. We're going to be doing a bunch of extra stuff. I know we're in talks of a new D&D campaign. We're also going to be doing a show that actually I want to talk to you about, Josh, because I would like you on. It's going to be called Killing Your Friends, which is going to be
what happened to your tagline for our show?
The tagline for our show.
Surrender?
Yeah, so, and then also, we're going to be doing this show bi-weekly, Surrender, the last discussion of peasants, or the first discussion of peasants.
Yeah, I don't know that we started with that.
Yes, we did. We did. I was very
I don't. I
specific with it.
feel like you left that out. Maybe I'm
No,
wrong. Maybe I am mistaken. I was
you
too
are
nervous.
the scotch is getting to your brain, my friend.
I have.
But
It's a tiny. So this is a trick for all of those people out there that paint and drink at the same time. Get a smaller glass.
incorrect. Drink and just get all your models and just base coat. Do sloppy ass
No.
factory line base coating.
I don't. You can't tell, but this is like a tiny. It's not a shot glass, but it's a much smaller glass. It works so much better because I look at it and I'm like, oh, I have a drink. I'm good. I keep painting. If I have a bigger glass, I just end up drinking more of it, and then I'm like, oh, my painting has gotten way worse. That's not good. So get a smaller glass, and your painting will improve.
Incorrect, but I think we can make that. I think we can make that a segment in future shows. So yep, giving a shout out to everyone. I'm hoping to make this a bi-weekly show. If you want to be on again, you know where to reach us. But otherwise, have a fantastic night, evening, day, wherever you are. We will wave, awkward wave. Goodbye.
Roll low, except for charges and initiative.